of some good services. They do have a dining area where you can go and taste their meals, sleeping area and accommodation where you can sleep in with friends and family, and very many other things that you need to check out when it comes to Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. However, today we are getting into the topic of the day. This is a program where we bring you issues pertinent to our society, socially, economically. Sometimes we bring educational, inspirational, and very many other topics. Today we are discussing corruption and how exactly this is, getting out of hand. But the forces, the authorities are trying their best to come up with solutions to mitigate the corruption tendencies in the country. Remember, corruption is very, very hard to fight because some of it goes down beyond our eyes can see, beyond our imagination even. It goes on behind closed doors, so we are not able to detect each and every case of corruption that is out there. However, we are trying our best, and the Inspectorate of Government is calling upon Ugandans to report each and every case. If you are seeing somebody trying to take a bribe from you, please come out and report this person so that they can be taken to the courts of law. If you notice some sense of corruption in any government office, it is your right to come out and speak, and of course so that this can be handled. Also, if you feel that there is a person being corrupt and they are occupying maybe a government office, even private entities, by the way, you have to come out and report, and that IGG together with stakeholders like the Anti-Corruption Coalition and the human rights defenders will come out and of course start to work out a way forward. Corruption is one of the things that are causing us to lose a lot of money. We are losing billions and trillions when it comes to corruption each and every year. This money could be channeled to other sectors that might be improved, but here we are losing it to corruption. So anyway, we want to take a look at how far we are and the statistics, how we are doing when it comes to corruption. That's why we are talking about promoting transparency and accountability. Let's introduce our guest for today to help us through the discussion. Her name is Byiringiro Christine. She is from the Anti-Corruption Coalition of Uganda, and she's going to introduce herself, say hi to us, and then we get into the discussion. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, our viewers. My name is Christine Byiringiro, and I work with the Anti-Corruption Coalition of Uganda as a program manager.
Okay.
Yes. So briefly about
Anti-Corruption Coalition, their mandate and
yes. So we were formed in 1999, and basically the reason was to provide that forum that brings together different anti-corruption actors to be able to generate a strong voice and force that can engage government on issues of corruption, transparency and accountability. And since then our mission has been and continues to be to empower the citizens to be able to demand transparency, to demand accountability, and this is from both the private and public actors.
Okay.
And so this we have done and we continue to do through and with our regional anti-corruption coalitions who are spread throughout the country, and these coalitions also have membership. So I would say that we are well spread on the ground within the country. And areas that we focus on specifically and especially research. We do a lot of research to inform our advocacy, because we know and believe that evidence is key to be able to inform our engagements with our duty bearers, but also to be able to influence the outcomes that we would want to see. Yeah, but we also do a lot of capacity building to be able to build that citizenry that is able to sustainably but also effectively demand transparency, accountability, and ultimately good governance in this country.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you fish out or pick out or handpick the people that you build, like that where capacity building is applied? How do you say, okay, this particular area is how we are going to go about it, or this is where we're going to choose from? How do you?
Yeah. So, like I earlier mentioned, through our regional anti-corruption coalition members who are over 16 in this country. We are able to identify at the local government levels the actors or the citizens or the groups that we need to train, who will be able to monitor. So the citizens that monitor public services, these we train. Some of them are CSO groups, that is civil society groups. Some of them are community-based organizations. Some of them are youth groups. We actually have youth integrity clubs who we form, and in different areas, in different districts, and we form these, we strengthen them, we empower them to be able to undertake this work. But also at national level, we also have some civil society organizations that we work with who are our partners, and we are able to also build their capacity or enhance their capacity to be able to influence some of these actions of the stakeholders or duty bearers in these spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the groups that you are training, for example, the youth groups and all these other groups, are they forthcoming? Do you see people with the zeal to fight against corruption? Do you see people who are tired of the situation that corruption is putting upon our country? Are they willing to join you in this fight?
Yes, what I would say is that yes, they are. Most of the groups that we train and that we empower, we see that they have the zeal, they have the passion to undertake monitoring, to hold the duty bearers accountable. Though there are some challenges, of course, that still persist. For instance, as they do the monitoring of public services and try to engage duty bearers at their levels, you know, sometimes the duty bearers might not be forthcoming. Sometimes these citizens are unable to access the critical information that they would need to be able to monitor some of these public services. But by and large, we have actually seen results. They do actually monitor, and then they engage, and there are some results that have come out. Yeah, some actions and some measures are being taken.
Okay,
yeah,
that is beautiful. Now, welcome back from the Anti-Corruption Day celebrations. Could you give us some highlights on what happened, beginning with the theme of the day and how that was impactful to the...
Okay, so last week on Monday, that was 9th of December, government joined the rest of the world to celebrate the International Anti-Corruption Day, or to mark the day. And while for us in Uganda, we marked this day on a Tuesday, 10th, but the spirit was still to be able to mark the International Anti-Corruption Day. So the theme for the day was promoting effective participation of the youth in the war against corruption. Okay. How does this day even come up? In about 21 years ago, that was in 2003, we saw the UN General Assembly pass, or the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And one of the things that was also done during this General Assembly was to designate the 9th of December every year as the International Anti-Corruption Day. And so on this day, member states are supposed to focus on amplifying the negative effects about corruption, raise awareness of the population about the bad side of corruption, really, and the effects of corruption. And so for us here in Uganda, as we celebrated or marked or commemorated the day, we were able to focus on the actions first and foremost. How far have we gone in the fight against corruption? We were able to review the actions of both state and non-state actors from the previous, that arose from the previous anti-corruption days, and then of course suggest recommendations, key of which was the need for both state and non-state actors to work together in this war against corruption. And so while we see and appreciate that government has taken some strides in the fight against corruption, but it also emerges that corruption continues to grow. It is continuing on an upward trend, and this we have seen through the various, publications, reports of different agencies. Key to note, of course, is the Inspector General report on corruption, where notably we are losing about 10 trillion. It could, some sources say 9.14, others 10, but really the difference is very meager. Yes. So now, out of the 9, because I would want to talk to the youth, because they were the focus, and rightfully so. We are a young nation, like about 78% below the age of 35. And so that is why we need to focus so much on the youth in this fight against corruption. And so when we look at critical sectors where the youth are affected, and I'll speak to education and health, we find that 1.8 trillion is lost annually to corruption in the education sector alone. So the 1.8 trillion, if you look at, for example, last year's financial year budget, to education alone, around 4 trillion, that is already 40% of the education funding that is being lost to corruption annually. For the health sector, we are losing about a little over 600 billion. But that is also something, because that is about 16% of the budget to the health sector. And so you see, these resources are quite substantial that we are losing to corruption. There's so much that would have been done. The World Bank came up in 2020. They usually do annually the Human Capital Index. So for 2020, they noted that a child born in Uganda in 2020 would be able to live up to, or to achieve 38% of the productivity they would have achieved if they had attained proper education and health. In other words, if you get proper education and health, then you should be 100% productive in future. But for a child born in 2020 in Uganda, they'll only achieve 38% of their lifetime productivity. And that is because of the quality of education and the health care in the country. So what that means, of course, there's both ways. There's what is the cause, and then what is the impact. The impact is that in the years to come, Uganda's labor force will be among the lowest in the world. What does that mean? And we see the world is becoming a global village, you need to go and work in these different countries. You export labor, you export expertise. But now for you, instead of exporting labor, we see what we are doing. We are exporting, with all due respect to our children, are going to work in
people's homes.
Yes, in people's homes, in Arab countries, and you see the quality of life, And so we can't compete favorably with the rest. So that is the impact, but also that means we cannot effectively contribute to the development of this country. What is the cause? We have already looked at it. The funding to the sectors increasingly is low. The National Planning Authority has on many occasions come up and asked government to increase the capitation grant, for example, under UPE from the 20,000 shillings per pupil that we currently have to 63,000 shillings per pupil. So at 63,000 shillings, the expectation is that at least you will improve the quality of education to be able to help this child achieve more than 38% of their lifetime productivity. And so that is the extent of corruption. So if this money that we are losing to corruption, the 1.8 trillion, the 600 billion in health, the 10 trillion overall, if we were able to put it back in these sectors, there is so much that would be able to achieve. Yes.
Obviously. Thank you very much for that insight. And my question would be, do you have any case scenarios, for example, in health, the health sector or the education sector, where corruption has stood out? Kindly point out.
Yeah, so first and foremost, overall and generally, we see that the Auditor General, of course, always comes up to audit, and in 2022, when he undertook the audit of the payroll, it emerged, so we found that we are losing about 19 billion shillings to ghosts. And this is ghost workers in all, across the sectors, whether in health, in education, and we see this affects the quality of services or the service delivery that would ideally get. Specifically in the health sector, we remember, I usually want to refer back to the COVID-19 times, because the pandemic perhaps brought out so much rot and so much corruption in such a short time within the country. While we were locked down, we saw that people were not sleeping. Institutions and indeed workers in public especially were busy eating away at our funds, and so we saw a lot of rot in the procurements of services. For example, in procuring oxygen, we saw blatant violation of procurement guidelines as they were, acquiring the medicines and vaccines under the health sector. And so there was so much in the COVID-19 related health procurements that we saw. And for education, we've also increasingly always seen ghost teachers, ghost students that always make it to the payroll.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, what does it mean to lose 10 trillion in general for the country? Also, what does it mean to lose these other little billions here and there, 19 billion and 16 billion? What does it mean to the country to keep losing such amounts, ridiculous amounts of money?
Yeah, so we see that every year as we prepare to put out a national budget, there's always a lot that goes into the preparations, and different ministries of government also prepare what we call the ministerial policy statements. Now, in these ministerial policy statements, they always highlight the achievements for the previous year. In other words, what the funds for the previous year have been applied to, and then the needs. And the key area I want to talk about is the unfunded priorities or key underfunded areas. And these always come out in most of these because they are areas which are considered priority, but have not been given any funding. And so you'll find that for most of these, it's usually, increasing staff or maybe repairs, working on dilapidated structures, salaries and etc. to be able to have the sector run effectively. So we'll find that the 10 trillion or the 1.8 or the 600 billion or whatever amount would have been able to fund these unfunded priorities anyway. They should not make them their way into such, budgets if they are unfunded. But yeah, government always has them. And so if we're able to fund these areas, we see that we would be able to greatly improve our delivery of services to the people.
Yeah.
Yes, and improve the well-being of the people, improve their productivity, improve their health, because we see while we usually see a bit of increase in budget allocations to these key sectors like education and health and etc., we also see that the share of these sectors on the national cake is continuously decreasing. And so as it decreases, corruption increases. As it decreases, expenses, especially debt servicing, increases. And so we need to see ourselves save this money and then apply it to resolve some of those key issues for our country.
Okay. Do you think that, for example, the perpetrators or the people who commit these offenses of corruption have been handled the right way? Because some of them have actually been reported, though we still have a long way to go in finding the culprits. But the ones who have so far been gotten by the authorities, do you think they have been handled the right way? Because I feel like there's a lot of potential in punishing people so that others see as an example.
Yeah, so yes, as a country we do have quite a robust legal and institutional framework for managing and handling the corrupt, and we have seen the institutions that are responsible, including the Inspectorate of Government, the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, the Auditor General's Office, and many others have tried their best and what is within their means to be able to bring these culprits to book. A few, well, quite a number have been apprehended and arrested, but we have also seen quite a number get away with it. They have been implicated, and the former IG, usually I usually like referring to Justice Muriagonja.
Yes.
When she said that the big fish always hide behind the president's back, and the president was quiet and didn't say anything. So yes, so we see there's some condonation of the corrupt, and that is why sometimes we see this grand-scale corruption taking place with impunity. Someone is implicated in a case of corruption, and instead of punishing them, we see them moved instead to another office, to another district. And so that discourages, one, the institutions that are trying to fight corruption. It discourages the population in as far as being able to report corruption, because they know there's nothing that will be done. But it also goes a long way in showing that we as a country are not yet prepared, we are not yet committed to fighting corruption, because we see there is a lot of I forget the word, but the prosecution is selective. Yes, there's a lot of selective prosecution. There are those that are getting away with it, and then there are those that are being sacrificed, and they fall into the net, if I were to say. So in as far as prosecuting corruption, yes, there's already some good work that is taking place, but also we see there are some challenges. The institutions that are supposed to be fighting corruption, I don't know if sometimes it is intentional that they are underfunded, but we see that they need to improve their staffing, their human resource, but also their funding to be able to effectively undertake their work. But also we see some interference, political interference in their work. They are not operating independently,
Really?
Oftentimes we have seen again, I will refer to the president because that's the information that at least I have and I can get. When the current IGG was assuming office, we remember how the president told her to go slow on the lifestyle audit, because at least the culprits or the thieves are investing within the country. Nonetheless, we have been told that the lifestyle audit is actually implemented by the Auditor General, by the Inspectorate of Government, but such statements, such public statements coming from a head of state really mean so much, and they water down, they discourage the fight against corruption. Even, for example, we have always been pushing, and we continue to push, for passing of the proceeds of crime, which is an asset recovery law, to be able to attach and recover the proceeds that have been taken into corruption. But we see that while the president has the prerogative of mercy, most recently this year we saw he came out and pardoned some of the prisoners, and one of these was John Kashaka. That is no secret. He was implicated and sentenced, and he was pardoned completely. And so we cannot be able to recover proceeds of crime from such people, you know. And so we want to see, even with the actions that these state actors are already undertaking, in as far as apprehending the corrupt, taking them to courts of law, we need to see a lot. We need to see a lot, because despite these actions, corruption seems to be on a growing trend, and it seems to be growing fast. And so we want to see the support. Can we take away the motivation, the biggest motivation for the corrupt, and that is the asset, the hope of enjoying the loot, you know, whether it is the houses, whether it is the land, whether it is, you know, that loot, the asset that has been acquired from corruption.
So are you saying there is corruption among the people who are supposed to fight corruption?
Oh yes, there's a lot of corruption. I was recently reading through the headlines and about the pension scam. Yeah. Yes, where the Christopher Obey and his team, and the headlines said, and this was coming from CID, Criminal Investigations Department. They said so much billions were taken by the investigators who were handling the case, and so that is why the case, you know, like couldn't proceed. It kind of was frustrated at the beginning. Oh my God. And so yes, it is not new that there's a lot of corruption even within these anti-corruption, you know, agencies themselves. We have quite a number of, you know, the Afrobarometer report usually measures perception of corruption, and Uganda police has usually taken, you know, the topmost, or is it the bottom? I don't know, but they usually emerge
the most corrupt.
Yes, as the most corrupt. Then we see the judiciary following, you know, closely in second position, because we see recently, I think it was this year or last year, there was that chief magistrate of Mitoma, I think, who was incarcerated for soliciting a bribe, 2.5 million. Yes, so we also see that there's corruption even within these agencies themselves. And so that is why if we were able to have this proceeds of crime bill, it is still a bill, but we need to pass it. When we pass it, we believe that we'll be able at least to recover from this corrupt, but also to prevent the corruption, because if someone knows that there is no, you know, there's no gain, there's nothing to excite them on the other side, if it won't pay, then they'll not engage in such kind of business. So if they find that you'll not enjoy the proceeds of corruption, then I don't think they will engage so much in the corruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that detail. But do you know that even you, if you were given a public office and you had access to billions of money, you would immediately enter the corruption?
Yeah, so we believe that corruption is a choice, and we always say that it begins with you. Even as we point fingers at, the different people in public offices, in private offices, we always know and believe that you are the first person. It begins with you. You must be the first champion in as far as corruption is concerned, in as far as fighting corruption. So yes, I don't want to speak for myself, but I don't think I would be corrupt if I were given a public office. Okay. But what we do is that we try to nurture. That is why we talked about the youth integrity clubs, and this is for both the youth in school and the youth that are out of school. We try to go out there and try to build the fiber of society. We try to inculcate the values of integrity in these youth, in the children, because we believe when someone is still young, they are not yet they are not yet exposed to this dangerous corruption, and so there's some hope. And we know there are institutions like the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity who are also trying to do this, and this is commendable. But we need to see government come out as we try to build the fiber. We need to see the controls also on corruption. We need to see the recovery of these proceeds of corruption. And by the way, what the IG is doing, there is some recovery of the proceeds, but that is provided for under the Anti-Corruption Act. But the kind of recovery is conviction-based. You go through the whole prosecution system, you go through the court system, then they try you, and then finally they convict you, and then that is when the institution can get a hold of but that is very dangerous, because during that time we know that our processes take long. They are quite long, they are quite laborious, they take years, and so the possibility of interfering with some of these proceeds, we've seen people move their proceeds to other jurisdictions. We've seen them move them into names of other people, and so it is important that we get a hold of these assets before the person is convicted. So as long as we can prove, and by we I mean the Inspectorate of Government or the other institutions, if you can identify and connect this proceed to corruption, then we want them to be recovered. Okay. So if we can get, and that is provided for in the bill, non-conviction based asset recovery. Yes.
Kali. So we are discussing corruption or anti-corruption thereof to make sure that we have a better Uganda. This is the platform that we do have to bring you these people so that they can shed a light on what is happening. The Anti-Corruption Day was recently celebrated on the 9th, internationally on the 9th of December 2024, and celebrated in Uganda particularly on Tuesday, 10th December, sorry. So let's take a very short break. We are returning with more stories with more questions. As you have heard, Uganda is losing over 10 trillion Uganda shillings each year to corruption. Very, very ridiculous amounts of money that can be channeled to other entities or industries in government to make sure that service delivery is improved. My name is Carol. You are watching Church of Uganda Family TV. We'll be back shortly. Don't go away.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at Hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
You are welcome back to Issues at Hand. Thank you so much for keeping it Church of Uganda Family TV. Remember, we are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe, and the conversation is live on our YouTube at COU Family TV, together with, of course, other media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, at COU Family TV, and Facebook and LinkedIn. Anywhere you will find us. Now, of course, we are still talking about sustainable anti-corruption strategies in the fight against corruption. We are promoting transparency because one of the things I said here was that if there were cameras in each and every office, public office, or even private sector, where we can see and prove what exactly is going on down there, maybe, you never know, it would help in the fight against corruption. The fight against corruption is a difficult one because, like I said, it happens behind closed doors, so it is possible that you may never even find out what happened. All we know is that the reports indicating 10 trillion Uganda shillings disappearing in corruption. Very, very, very high amounts of money. However, we are here to discuss it with our guest from the Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, ACCU, and she has been telling us a lot about the fight and how far they have gone as stakeholders, as people who carry out some of the risky, measures to fight corruption. She mentions that some of these particular fights are in the ministries of government, for example, education, health. We also have police and the judiciary coming in topmost on the list as the most corrupt government entities, as per the report. Her name is Christine Byiringiro from ACCU. And my first question would be, as stakeholders, as people, partners who are partnering with the Inspectorate of Government to fight corruption, you mentioned that you are underfunded. Have you tried to solicit, are you even allowed to solicit funds from other areas, maybe donors, people, well-wishers to come and support you financially?
Yeah, so I must mention we are not underfunded in the sense of a government institution, because we are a civil society organization, yes, an NGO, but I noted that government institutions that do this kind of work, the anti-corruption work, are most oftentimes underfunded. And yes, I think they do, because we have interacted with them sometimes, and I think they do quite some bits of fundraising. But you see, the challenge with fundraising, when corruption is, written all over, and the actions to stop this or prevent this don't seem to be coming through, is that even the donors, for example, that would be willing to fund these institutions will hold back, because they do not know that their money will be applied properly, and rightly so. And so that is one of the challenges. But we see there are other priorities that such donors are involved in. For example, until recently, the health sector was one of the biggest beneficiaries of donors, but now they have other concerns, the Russia, Ukraine, the Israel, and etc. And so as they move away, we see the funding reduce over time. But we also now, when you look at this corruption, maybe the 10 trillion that we are losing would now come in to close the gap, but it is not available. And so the sector suffers. And who is in the sector who is suffering? It is the ordinary citizen, but not just any ordinary citizen, because we have the citizens, those who are, like we have said, the ones who are corrupt are few but very powerful. So those ones, we do not see them suffering immediately. So the immediate effect is on that man, that woman, that child at the grassroots who will go to a hospital and not find medicine, who has to walk more than 10 kilometers to access the nearest school, who perhaps will fail to have a meal at school, who will fail to have lunch, and will go hungry, and at the end of the day will not, grasp anything in their head. And so these are the immediate effects of such actions of corruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So what would be now the way forward? Are there any strategies that can be taken up as measures to mitigate corruption?
Yes, the way forward, and specifically now, again, speaking to the youth, because they form they are the biggest dividend in this country, and so they are the generation of tomorrow. They will shape this country and its development, its growth, and so we need to see them engage more. Actually, I think I will credit government for coming up with a theme for this year's anti-corruption fight and focusing on the youth, because the youth are affected, but also we need to bring them on board in the fight against corruption. And while they have been discouraged because the actions of some of these agencies, of the individuals, seem to speak otherwise and to discourage, those who are fighting corruption. We cannot take a back seat because this is our country. Despite, the rot that is in it, we have to live in it and clean it up. So we need to see the youth come up. Why? They need to know that if they don't come up to fight corruption, it will get worse. It is already endemic, it is systemic. So if we do not uproot it now, then their generation is lost. If you tell someone after university, we have over 3,000 graduates every year, when they go out there, they are not going to access jobs. They are not going to get jobs. Why? Because one, these people who are supposed to have, retired, do not want to leave these jobs. And when they try to pull them out, they say, let me first talk to the president, And so there are many, and they say, I know someone, they told him, your time is up, you have clocked the edge, please retire. He said, no, but my boss is older than me and he's still in office. So he said, no, I need to first talk to the president. And the man is still in office. So if the youth know that when you finish school, if you want a job, you have to part with a 5 million, with a 10 million. It has become, almost standard that for wherever you go to get a job in the public sector, you have to part with money, and not just little money, but a lot of money to pay for a job. So, and yet, where will these people get the money from? Your parent has struggled through to pay education for you, and now you have finished, and they have to look for more money to buy a job for you to get a job. So if the youth do not come out now and fight this and engage in this fight, and it's good they have come up indeed this year. We saw the protests against corruption when they were, when they were violently handled and etc. And they were, I must say, they were peaceful and they were exercising their constitutional right. Yeah. But these are some of the challenges. Sometimes the traditional ways or the traditional processes and procedures for us to follow in the fight against corruption might be riddled with challenges like we have seen. Yeah. Nonetheless, there are always new windows, The youth are innovative. They usually come up with online online campaigns, for example. We had very successful Twitter campaigns, Facebook, and we saw things change, So I implore them to leverage the advantage that we have of technology. Good enough, the youth are very grounded in technology, so I would encourage them, I would encourage the population to maximize some of these opportunities to be able to fight against corruption, to expose corruption and then fight corruption, because again, the corrupt will not allow you to just pull them out so easily. They are powerful, but they are few, but they will fight back with everything that they have.
Which is not little, they have a lot.
But I also would I thank you as the media, the Fourth Estate, for always providing the fora to make citizens really engage. The media has always come up and shed light on incidents of corruption, and so it goes out, good thing, you have wide reach. Last week, I think it was last week, when we saw headlines of the coffee that was stolen, and we saw that high-level officials in the army and were involved, over 200 billion shillings. We also the other week woke up to headlines of 60 billion lost in 60 seconds from Bank of Uganda. And so when we have some of these coming through the media, at least it tickles, it provokes the public to demand government to act and to also provide answers.
But weren't you shocked that money disappeared from the central bank?
In 60 seconds, 60 billion in 60 seconds. Well, the central bank has since come up to distance themselves from any involvement in this kind of thing. We also don't know. Technology is evolving, and the thieves, I'll call them the thieves, are also, becoming more and more sharper. It's as if they also go to school to study. And that is one of the reasons why we need to, as a country, invest in training, in skilling our human resource, in police, in these anti-corruption agencies, to be able to catch up. Otherwise, the thief are going to steal, you see. Some of the money was taken to UK, it was returned, but the one that went to Japan, we can't get it, So we are losing just like that.
Interesting. So do you see the corruption levels, the surges, the ever-rising corruption levels reduce in time to come? Where is the future of corruption in this country? Do you see it going away, or do we still have a very, very big fight to put up?
Well, it is all dependent on the citizens. Again, like we say, power belongs to the people. That is what our constitution tells us, and I believe that. So if the citizens rise up and decide to participate in this fight against corruption, decide to put their foot down. But putting their foot down means you decry corruption, you distance yourself from corruption, you don't engage in any act of corruption. We are going to the polls next year. Actually, we begin next year, and then up to 2026. But you will see that someone can get, they usually use salt, sugar and soap, that is, I don't think that is even 20,000 shillings. So you'll see a lot of this corruption, but citizens actually always fuel this corruption, knowingly or unknowingly, but I think most of the times it is knowingly. So as you fuel that corruption, just know the leader that has given you that soap and you took it and gave him your vote is the one that is going to eat away all these, services. He'll eat your road, he'll eat your hospitals, and by eating, I mean he'll swindle the money that is supposed to build the roads, to build the hospitals. And so if we vote because someone has given you something, then I don't see corruption moving out of this country. But if people vote leaders because they are convinced about their manifesto, they are convinced about, what they will deliver, then I think we would be able to stamp out corruption in this country. Like they always say, these leaders, the political leaders, are always after the next general election and not after the next generation. So
Wow.
I'm not planning to be a musician.
You might need it.
Yeah, but for them it is how they win the next general election, and so they'll put in so much, but trust me, they will, once they go through, they will have to reap and recoup whatever went into there. And so we need to see a generation that does not engage in corruption, that exposes the corrupt, especially when we go for politics, that when the taxi man is stopped and you're all on board, he goes out with his hand folded, he's going to bribe, and you're okay with it, all of you have seen and you move on. That's where corruption starts. It starts petty, but with time it evolves into grand corruption, and that is why we are where we are as a country, because we did not stop the corruption when it was petty. We just let it on, and now it is too big. So fighting corruption in Uganda is going to take, it is a process. It is going to take time. It will take years. But if we are dedicated as citizens, as leaders, if we renew ourselves, our fight against corruption, I believe we can end it.
Okay. Our regards to the team at SCCU that is helping in this fight. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being a part of Issues at Hand this morning.
You're welcome.
To our viewer as well, thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand. It is a great pleasure always having you in the morning, and of course make sure you tune in for other programs that are coming your way from us here at Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Carol, and it's been a great pleasure this morning having you. We want to thank you so much for being a part of us. Now I would like to also convey my thanks to the production crew. Thank you so much, and for myself and them, it is a good morning.